On with me now is Ira Mehlman, who is Media Director of FAIR, Federation for American Immigration Reform, one of the groups that watches over this, and it's a full-time job for sure. Ira, good morning, sir. How are you? It's good to have you. Can you hear me loud and clear?
Good morning.
Morning. You just get back from the border?
Yeah, we're actually still down here in Texas, but we spent the last 2 days. Yeah, I'm in San Antonio at the moment, but we spent the last 2 days in Eagle Pass and Del Rio, Texas, both of which have been the really hot spots along the border until Governor Abbott here in Texas finally decided to do something about it, and it's actually having a real impact. So when you hear the White House, Joe Biden saying, we can't do anything about it until Congress acts, you have a governor here who has demonstrated that if you show the will to deter people, they will be deterred. It hasn't stopped illegal immigration. It simply moved it now to Arizona and California. That's where the bulk of the traffic is coming in. The governors of those states wish to follow suit and protect their citizens. They now have a model. But what I think Governor Abbott has shown here is that illegal immigration is not an immutable fact. We can control illegal immigration if we exercise the will to do so.
I think I heard the numbers. They went from literally several thousand in that area to down to 3. I think he said 3. That's how much of a difference it made.
Well, I don't know that it's 3. We were out one night just kind of surveying the border. We saw the Border Patrol take in a whole group of illegal migrants. I didn't count them, but there were certainly way more than 3. So, but whatever it is, it isn't the thousands and thousands that they were seeing before Governor Abbott put up the razor wire, before the Texas legislature passed SB 4 and Governor Abbott signed it. It hasn't even gone into effect yet, and yet it seems to be deterring people from coming across. So, the cartels are smart. They're not going to take people in an area where they know it's going to be difficult. Instead, they're going to some softer spots in the border, further west in Arizona and California. So this is, there is a model for doing this. It doesn't require that we just, as the Senate tried to do, legalize illegal immigration. We can deter people from coming in and disobeying our laws and creating the kind of havoc that we're seeing all across the country.
Yeah. No wonder we're frustrated. And I was just thinking about this. It's almost like telling somebody, don't cross the interstate at all, and certainly don't cross the interstate blindfolded. We constantly hear them telling us things that are so obvious that we need this bill and all of this, and this will be the thing that would help all of us out when we don't need the bill. Your thoughts on the bill itself and the way Mitch McConnell has pushed this thing through.
It was a disaster. It was a squandered opportunity. They had the opportunity to do so because President Biden wants this foreign aid package to help Israel, Ukraine, and Taiwan. And Mitch McConnell wants also. Instead, he sent James Lankford, the senator from Oklahoma, into that meeting, and he gave away the store. It actually would codify illegal immigration at levels that are higher than our legal immigration process. It would allow up to 1.8 million people to come into the country illegally every year. We take about 1 million people through our legal immigration process. So we would be saying essentially we'll allow nearly twice that number to come into the country illegally. It doesn't do anything to end asylum abuse. It actually encourages more asylum abuse. Under that bill, if you got across the border and said, I want asylum, you'd get work authorization from day one. The whole purpose of having a delay is to prevent people from abusing the asylum system. If you have to wait 6 months before you get your work authorization, you're really coming here for work, not because you're being persecuted back home. Now they're saying, we'll give it to you from day one. The only response that we can expect is that people will start coming here and declaring themselves to be asylees and get work authorizations immediately. Just on every level, this bill was a complete sellout, and I have no idea what Mitch McConnell was thinking, but he certainly wasn't thinking about the best interest of the American public.
I got to wonder what James Lankford and his supporters are thinking, too, because it seems like Langford just committed political suicide for the next election, and I'm not sure what Mitch McConnell gave him or promised him, but man, he wakes up this morning and his political capital has been tanked. Your thoughts?
It has. I don't know what was in it for him, but he just walked into a trap. So, whatever it is, the political fortunes of James Langford and Mitch McConnell are not that important thing to the American public. What is important to the American public is that we actually do something to take away this administration's discretion not to enforce our laws. They came in and deliberately wrecked the enforcement capacity of this country. They abandoned the Remain in Mexico policy, agreements with Central American countries that you had to ask for asylum in the first country you came to, not wait until you got to the U.S. border. There are countless things that they did to wreck the enforcement capacity because they claim to have the discretion. It's not clear that they actually do. H.R. 2, which was approved by the House last May, that should have been the bill that was put into the foreign aid package. That would have taken away any discretion they have to not enforce the law. Would it say to this administration, you're going to enforce it as written. We're not going to allow you to simply abuse your discretionary authority to do all sorts of things that the law never intended.
I understand there's also $400 million to hire lawyers for the illegals. $400 million for the lawyers and nothing to build the wall back and the gaps that's needed.
Yeah, I believe there was something in there for the wall, but yes, there would have been taxpayer-funded attorneys for illegal immigrants.
Crazy.
Certainly, all of the unaccompanied minors. There was also billions of dollars in there for the NGOs that are actually facilitating illegal immigration. The people come into the country, the government hands them off to the various groups like Lutheran Family Services, Catholic Charities. They're not doing it out of the goodness of their heart. They are getting billions of dollars in government money to actually resettle people here in the United States, get them on public welfare rolls while they're here. All of these things would have grown exponentially because there would have been a lot more money in it for them. So again, what the thinking was on the part of Langford and McConnell isn't clear, but it certainly isn't what the American public was expecting.
Yeah. Yesterday had on Senator Cindy Hyde-Smith, and we were talking about this, that I don't think they ever thought that this bill would pass, but because these people are pretty good power politicians as far as the Democrats are concerned, they knew that they could use this to beat over the head of the electorate going into November, saying, look, we presented a great bill. It would have done all of these great things, and the Republicans would not accept it. Rand Paul had this.
From the beginning, I think this has been a ruse. It has never really been about the border. That was a token. That was a bone that was going to be thrown to conservatives. But they were always worried that if conservatives got wind that it was a ruse, that it wasn't a real border reform, that you would discuss the bill, look at the bill, and that it would be destroyed. So the game all along was to keep this in secret from us, but also in the secret from anybody that might look at it and might criticize it. This was an organized plan from the very beginning from our leadership to keep this out of the hands of any conservatives that might criticize the bill.
Well, we got our hands on it, and then they said it was internet rumors. Langford kept saying these are internet rumors. And then you open up the bill, it says 5,000 people could go.
Yeah, it's going to be an emergency after 5,000. What about an emergency after 700,000 people already came in?
How about 5 if one of them is on the terror watch list?
From the beginning, I think this has been a ruse.
So
it has never really.
Ira, what happens to the political capital now going forward of the Speaker, Mike Johnson?
Well, he has said, it's not coming over to the House because it's not going to pass the Senate. But he said that if it did come to the House, it would be dead on arrival. But I think the senator there was absolutely right. Chuck Schumer in the White House set a trap, and McConnell and Langford walked right into it. Now they have the option of saying to the American public, look, we negotiated in good faith. We tried to put something on the table. And after their own people came in and negotiated all this, they just blew it all up. They blew it all up, not because they wanted to create a campaign issue for Donald Trump in the fall. They blew it up because it was an awful bill.
Yeah.
It didn't make things better. It actually made things worse. You can believe that.
Hold on for a moment. We got a quick break here. I want to ask you what you think, because you've been deep into this. What do you think the end game is on this one? Supplanting and eroding base for the Democrats, is that it? Where we're going to go with this one, and do the Republicans have their act together to mount this challenge, because we're getting closer and closer to November? Back with Ira Mehlman, Media Director of FAIR, when we return. We are back live with Ira Mehlman, Media Director, FAIR, Federation for American Immigration Reform. Ira, when you look at the end game, by the way, here's what the president said recently.
Doing nothing is not an option.
Mm-hmm.
Republicans have to decide. For years, they said they want to secure the border. Now they have the strongest border bill this country has ever seen. We're seeing statements about how many oppose the bill now. Look, I understand the former president is desperately trying to stop this bill because he's not interested in solving the border problem. He wants a political issue to run against me on. They've all but said that across the board. No one really denies that I'm aware of. The American people want a solution that puts an end to the empty political rhetoric. Just failed to do anything for so long.
You almost need to go to a dentist, because you grit your teeth so strong, understanding the obvious, that we don't need a freaking bill. We just need you to do what you're supposed to do. But your thoughts?
Well, you just look at the numbers. The last fiscal year before President Biden took office, there were 400,000 or illegal alien encounters at the border. Last year, which ended in September, there were 3.2 million. So it has grown exponentially. Just in December alone, we saw 371,000 people encountered at the border. So in 1 month alone, we had almost as many as encounters as in 2020. So it clearly has nothing to do with the situation. It has everything to do with the actions of the administration in power. This administration came in and deliberately wrecked our immigration enforcement capacity. You were asking before the break what the end game is. They are trying to create facts on the ground. They know that this is not popular with the American public, but they also know that once people get into the United States, it becomes virtually impossible to remove them. It takes years and years. And so, they're, I guess, willing to pay a short-term political price to achieve a long-term end, which they're trying to create such momentum here that Congress finally gives in, grants amnesty to people who are in the country illegally. This has been the plan from day one, and you can see it just play out over the past 3 years.
Yeah, and it really is disheartening, because we know that the Trump administration would do all he can as far as deportation, but as you said, it's limited on the number of people that he can get out of here. I saw a stat the other day was talking about how many people here, how long it would take, just even if Congress approved readily to do this, how long it would take to get all these people out of the country. It is, as you said, virtually impossible.
It is. What you can do is enforce other laws that convince people that it's not in their own interest to remain here. Mm-hmm. They're coming here for rational reasons. They believe that if they get into the United States, they will be able to work, they will be able to collect benefits, they will be able to do all the things that they intended to do when they came here. If you convince them that that's not going to happen, you're likely to see a lot of them decide, you know what, there's no point in staying here, I'm going to go home on my own. So it doesn't all have to be at the hands of the government. People can do it on their own, but that's also going to require sanctuary jurisdictions like New York City. You were talking about Mayor Adams a little while ago. They need to make the decision that they are not going to make their city so attractive that people keep coming and bankrupting the city.
What worries people like you and me who know what's going on, and a lot of people, and most people in this audience out there is this is happening. We talk about the perfect storm. This is happening at the most inopportune time, because now we have a problem with homelessness. We have a problem with gangs, from the snatch and grabs to the drug use, San Francisco, Oregon, all of these places like that. And I think this is like pouring steroids on it, because you're going to have gangs that develop around their culture, lack of family, regardless of where they come from, Latin America, Venezuela, China, wherever these folks are coming. And we're going to have we're going to see crime on the streets in hometowns across America, and I think we're already seeing that. I know you see this in how Washington, D.C. has changed in the last 10 or 15 years.
Yeah, and that's exactly what the folks down at the border were telling us, that, it just exacerbates already existing conditions. You already have problems, with families without fathers who are present in the home. It is affecting every aspect of life. You bring in all these folks, it just it compounds it. And we're seeing the effects. You just look at what's happening in places like New York and San Francisco and Chicago. All of those places are, as you pointed out, a perfect storm of social influences that are going to undermine the very fabric of the country.
It's not going to get any better. And we're not even talking about the schools yet. What's going to happen to the schools that are already under duress, as we talked about. Ira, it's always good having you, sir. Appreciate it. Safe trip back home.